And a very good morning to everyone, and welcome to the Friday pre-market update, pre-market rundown for Friday, October 30th, 2020. It's the last day of the month, and we're getting into the election, so we have a lot to talk about. I'm Andrew Horowitz. I am the co-founder of TriggerCharts. I want to give you some education and some information today to go over all about technical analysis. It's important to understand that, as we always disclaim, that this is an educational discussion. It is not an offer to buy, a recommendation to sell. It is not any kind of recommendation on any of the securities that we talk about. And we talk about some of the things that we see that are trending in the market, as well as take your questions in terms of the stocks, the futures, the commodity contracts that you want to take a look at. But really what we're doing here each and every day is really looking at some important technical indicators and how to understand what they are telling us. If you look to the right, the chart, we have the SPY, and in the SPY, we give you that range, that very wide discussion, or the discussion of the very wide range that we talked about last week. If you remember, we said that when we have areas of consolidation where our altimeter, which are the three red lines that you're seeing to the right here, okay, the red, the blue, and the green, that is called an altimeter. Basically, it's an algorithm that we developed off of a traditional market profile that we tweaked a bit to give us a real good insight of where the volume is playing at a particular price. So we combine both price and volume. That's really important. We talk about that all the time. But what I also want to talk about is beyond that, we talked about last week the width, the range. And we said, hey, you know what? There's a pretty big range here, which will have a lot of volatility potentially. We marked it very clearly last week from to about 343 at the top down to about 323. Came very close to that yesterday. Probably today, I'm going to see some give back as we saw those earnings come out as we're getting close to the election. So these ranges are telling us, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't want to be involved in this because the volatility potential is high. I also mentioned last week, one of the things we do when we see these wide ranges is to think about that we want to possibly modify our position size. We want to make sure that we don't have a very large positioning out there due to the fact that anything can happen in any given day. And we did see that significantly when we saw that move off of that support level, which was the resistance level prior. So we saw that red resistance where we saw it break down below, and now that becomes support. Support was broken on the downside, and now we have a new support line here, which is formed as a daily chart, all the way down to 323, which it is possible that we get to. A couple things I want to talk about. I want to have some polls today and have a little bit of fun into the election. So we're going to do three different polls. I'm going to start with this. The first question is, are you waiting, trading, or adding before the election? So the poll is live right now, and we're going to get to that in a second. I'll get to your answers. Before we do that, I want to mention something. We've had some questions come in. I'm just going to show you a basic chart right here. And I want you to follow along. A lot of people say, hey, Andrew, how do you get that cool stuff on top where you just like enable or disable something, or you change your time frame? A lot of people have time frames on the top. You may have your drawing pane there, maybe some studies and things like that. If you want to add something to your toolbar, this is what you do. You go to a chart. All the way to the right, far right, there's a little button. It says Toolbar Options when you hover over it. You click it, and you say Customize. And then you go to Studies when this pop-up comes up. And you could do something like Add Studies, okay, for example. So if you click that, I already have Enable Studies, which is down on the bottom here, so you can click Enable Studies, and you drag it up to the toolbar, put it up there. But I'm going to show you, I have that already. So I'm going to do Add Study, okay? I'm going to take the Add Study, I'm going to drag it up to my toolbar, I'm going to put it right there, and apply that. And when I click that button, I should get an Add Study box that comes up. If there's a drop-down, one that has a drop-down available, it will have a drop-down. So, you can always take this, I believe, and customize it there. And I think there you could do either things like, for example, show the image. You can show the text, the image and text. So if I do image and text, you see both that image of it and the text, okay? So you can always customize the toolbar and what you want on this. You can even do things like, time frame, take one tick and move it up and just say, hey, every time I want to have, let's not do that. Let's do 30 minutes. Let's take a 30-minute. Let's move my 30-minute up here. So there's my 30. Watch what happens. Every time I click 30, chart's going to change to a 30-minute time frame. I mean, I could do that here on my time frames as well. So that's how you customize these toolbars. You could reset it if you don't like it, or you could just take it, I believe, just drag it off. So you just, when you customize it, drag it and get rid of it. Apply, and it's there. So a quick tip in the morning that could help you. Hopefully that helps. Let's get back to this. All right, we have most people voting on you waiting, trading, or adding. So here's the answers. We're gonna end the polling here because I have 3 different polls. I think they're gonna be really kind of fun to do in the morning, pre the election, of course. Are you waiting, trading, or holding? Adding, 0%. Trading, 36%. Waiting, 64%. Now that tells me a little bit of something about our audience here. Obviously, we have a combination probably of day traders as well as swing traders and also people that are investors. That's what I'm thinking here. If I see a poll like this, usually you would think that trading, if you just had traders, we'd have that all the way bounced hard right, 80, 90% of the people. So what's happening is that you're trading, 64% of you are really concerned about what's happening. Now, I will tell you, obviously, it's important to watch your risk, watch your trade size, watch your exposure, but at the same time, nothing wrong with if you don't feel confident, holding a little bit, but that's what our tools are designed for, to help you with your confidence. We have a 10-day free trial for anybody that hasn't tried it. Everything is available on the TradeStation Trading app platform. And you could try out and use paper trading if you want to just test out what's happening. I really encourage you to do that. Use a simulated account to make sure that you don't spend money if you don't need to, learning the process. And of course, there is a 4-hour video tutorial that I encourage everybody to get. Obviously, the one of 2 ways you could do it is pay for it. It's $199. It's a coaching session that is timeless. Or if you subscribe to the Commander Series, which is $149 a month, over on the TradeStation Trading app platform, you get it for free. So just write into support@TriggerCharts.com. I told you there's going to be 3 polls. We're going to make this interactive. Second one, this one's kind of interesting. This is a 2-part poll. 2-part poll, okay? First one is going to be what happens after the election. We're going to make an assumption, all of us today, that we have a result from the election, that either party is going to relatively quickly be voted in, and then we'll go from there. The first question on the poll is, what happens to the markets with the election result coming out that Biden gets in office? The second one, I'm just going to tell you when we finish this one, what happens when Trump gets reelected. So here we go. Either stocks are going to go up with Biden, stocks are going to go down with Biden, or really no impact on stocks. The stock market just doesn't care about it. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to start talking about a few other things. By the way, thank you for making us the #1 highest rated indicator and always in the top 5 or so overall requested and installed indicators on the TradeStation Trading app platform. So where are we right now? Let's talk about that as you're doing your poll on Biden. Right now, we're in corrective action for the markets. I think a lot of the excess is coming out, as you have noted, and many of you, about 65% of you said, you're waiting. You're not putting money in. Maybe you're not taking money out. Maybe just cleaning up positions. That is exactly what's happening in the markets right now. What we're finding is that there is a significant amount of just, okay, you know what? Let's just wait and see what goes on here. We don't know if we're going to have a contested election. We don't know if we're going to have civil unrest or rioting or none of the above. But you know what? What's the point of getting ahead of it, right? So while we can make some bets on either side, it looks to me like, with the combination of earnings that we see come out, combination of economics, the spread of the virus, all of this is a problem. And more importantly, no stimulus is a problem. People are squaring up into the election. What's happening is that they're saying, you know what, I don't really want to be invested right now. And if I do, I'll hold with my long-term holdings, but I'll take some things off the table. What happens if Biden gets in eventually, if taxes go up and we see that happen? Or what happens if Trump gets back and we get some more things that go on that really are not, likable by the markets? And what about the stimulus program that just can't seem to get passed, that we know is going to happen eventually? And what's the amount? And how long is it going to take to actually get in if we have a lame duck situation in Congress, or who knows, and what the makeup will be? So that on top of the virus, where we're seeing lockdowns in Germany and in France and El Paso, and the highest infection rate count on a daily basis overnight today around the world, that's a big problem. So we're seeing lockdowns in places like New Zealand, Australia, having some problems as well. This is going to be a consistent theme that we're going to have to deal with for some time. While all of us wanted to believe that this is just not anything anymore, and of course the virus task force has been pretty much disbanded, we're not seeing a lot of news from the government on this. They just want to sweep this under the carpet, and it's politically motivated right now, depending on which side you want to look at. Problem is that we're going to have this in the news for the foreseeable future. So Europe is leading the way on the downside a little bit, and the big question finally on this area is, will Biden want a lockdown? We know that President Trump right now is fully against the lockdown. Markets are trying to price all this in right now. Let's get to our poll. Yep, got a lot, pretty much 85%, 90% of the people voted. So here we're going to end this right now. The results are this. Okay. 8% of you said that no impact on stocks. Let's see here. Stocks go down 70% if Biden gets elected, and 23% say stocks go up if Biden is elected. So let's remember that right now. Let's kind of mental picture that we have. The majority of people are saying that stocks go down under Biden. A few people said, a few percent say stocks go up, and just 8% said no impact on stocks. Okay. All right. Now let's go to the final one, which is the impact of Trump being reelected on stocks and what we think about that. Now, remember something. The narrative out there for a long time has been, and pretty much created by President Trump, that, if Vice President Biden gets elected, what happens? Well, your stock market's going to crash, your 401k is going to go to hell, the economy is going to go down the toilet. So this is kind of something that's been playing for a long time, and really the Democrats have not been able to fight this. And to talk about how there's going to be a significant amount of overall taxes that are going to be raised, and there's a big concern about that. So all this is kind of sitting around and marinating, and there's a big concern, and pretty much got in everybody's head that, Trump is very market friendly. We can see by his tweets and the conversations that he has. Oh, the Dow Jones is up today. We see a new record, and a continual pump of the system looking for lower rates and really being involved in the financial markets, trying to reduce regulation, trying to make sure that markets go up. Everything is related to the markets as far as his effectiveness as a president, and that's what he said. That's what his administration said. It's not what I'm saying. So a couple more people. We have about 80. Well, actually, a few more people. We have about 80% of the people that are on today voting. We need a few more. We'll come back to that in a second. I talked about the KRI indicator last time in a few weeks, and we talked about how we were in overbought. If you remember, right here in the range here, bring out the old annotation tools, and let's take a look at. Let's look at. When we looked at the areas that were popping, and I kind of put out a tweet on this where we saw that we got right here this level that was significant, about 6, and we saw these clusters, right? These circles that formed on the chart. You have to look for a near-term overbought situation that we hadn't seen since we were back over here, back in September. So now we see this about 7% slump down on the markets. And when we see what's going on right now, we have a little bit of support probably at the baseline here. I mean, this is what we talked about, this 320 range, just from a price action standpoint. But we are seeing that if you look over to the right here, we are seeing that the key reversal indicator says this: the overall market is near pretty much an even Steven kind of situation where we really don't have a bias. Bias could be a little bit more to the downside movement as we are seeing this go right now. And again, we went from a +5 all the way back down to here. That's where we're looking to go. You want to get, really, if we can get over into the oversold range, that would be a buying opportunity from, I would say, an overall standpoint. And all this does is tell us the bias of the market in a very big picture from a psychological standpoint. It shows us where things are sitting in terms of the opportunities. And if you look at this right here, really the last opportunity, let's go way back. We had a couple of them. We started to see a bit of an oversold level that hit, right? Little bit maybe getting there, but not really there. We got some greenies. You look for the greenies. Nothing tremendous. I mean, these were okay. Then we saw them start to ramp positive, so that was good. When the KRI was kind of neutral to +2. When you see the 0 to +2 on the KRI, that's okay. That means there's a trend. It's hot. That's all right. There's momentum. When you start seeing it roll over down to the -1, again, this can kind of continue when we're in this range over here or this range over here. It continues in that direction is the potential, what we're seeing. And again, like all of you are saying, or many of you, the majority, that, we're going to wait till we see what the results are of the election. Again, not a lot of confidence right now in the system as we're looking at this. All right, let's end the polling and see what we got. A little bit of a difference here. So we had about 70% of the people saying that stocks will go down if Biden was elected. It didn't necessarily mean that the opposite would be true if Trump would get elected. But here is the polling results. First of all, 8% said no impact. 0%, goose egg on stocks would go down. 92% said stocks will go up. So there you have it. I think that's well embedded in investors. And, you're a microcosm of the investment universe. And I think what we're seeing right now is the fact that not only you, but people are saying, you know what? If Trump comes in, we have a good shot for stocks to go up. And probably that some of the reaction that we're seeing right now, on top of the virus being an issue, is the polls that people are saying, hey, you know what? What's going on? Tech earnings were holding up, generally speaking. They looked okay, but, we saw Twitter just actually get harpooned today after they missed some of their numbers. Facebook, I'm surprised it held up as well today as it did, considering the big run that it had. It had some holes in their overall report overnight. Amazon, looking good. Can't complain about that. Apple, very significant drop in iPhone sales. Google had a good number overall. Here's what I want to stress to you, though, and I think is really important. If nothing from today's discussion that you take away, I'd like you to take away this, and that is that analysts have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, whether they be economists or whether they be stock analysts looking to put a price target and a buy or a sell or a hold rating on. Right now, unfortunately, we have an environment that there is a lot of unknowns. We have a situation where there is just no ability really for not only companies, which is, by the way, why companies have pulled their overall guidance moving forward. You think that if companies who have on the ground, in the trenches knowledge of what is going on with their company, with sales, if they're pulling guidance, you think that taking it back one step away, an analyst sitting at a desk trying to come up with numbers has any idea what the outlook for the company is? Absolutely not. No wonder why we're getting such a wide range of results from the actual numbers to what the analyst prediction was. And right now, what analysts are doing, especially sell-side analysts, is the game they play, is they are actually guiding things much lower than they anticipate, hoping that companies will come over the top, bringing on a bit of a tailwind for the markets. So analysts are just absolutely in the blind right now. So I really don't think that anything that they're saying can be trusted. Yes, we get a lot of headlines. CNBC comes out with, this company beat this company beat that. The fact is you need to look at historical numbers and see what the growth rates were on a fundamental basis to where they are now and what those projections look like, if there are any, and really take everything that analysts say with a grain of salt. They're just not good at this. And you know what? I'm not blaming them. The fact is they can't be good at this. It's impossible. And if they're trying to present the fact that they have the ability to do so, you need to step back and say, are you kidding me? There's just no way. And this is where technical analysis comes in. This is exactly why we use technical analysis. When there is not that much clarity in terms of fundamentals, price is usually a great indicator of what's happening. Okay, economics next week, again, with the idea that analysts don't have much of an idea. Well, GDP, we did say come in at plus 33%, which, again, is because we had such an extraordinary level down. Initial claims were down 751,000. Next week, we have a big week. ISM manufacturing factory orders, ISM services, FOMC rate decision, non-farm payrolls, and the unemployment rate. I mentioned earlier about checking out where that we have the 4-hour coaching session. I mentioned that, and we're going to look at a few different stocks today. Good question came in right now on the chat. I just want to get to that. The question is, why do Wall Street managers donate to Biden? So I can give you two different answers. One, there is the thought that the Biden plan, which does raise taxes, but yet does put a lot more people to work, will actually help the economy and shore up the economy much faster than the current way that we're doing things now. There is the idea that while stocks may go down in an interim basis, long term, there'll be a lot more there'll be more baseline quality to the earnings because we'll have an economic backdrop that's a lot stronger. I'm just telling you what the thesis is. In addition to that, not everybody necessarily votes with their wallet. I mean, there are some things that maybe they don't like about Trump, the way that they're doing things with the tariffs, possibly with how we are dealing with our allies, possibly how we're dealing with the world, the divisiveness and division that we have. I don't know. Maybe that's what they're thinking. Maybe they think there is some benefit. Maybe they think there isn't. I don't know. It could be some reason. So that's, maybe they're just not voting with their wallet necessarily. All right, let's take a few things. When I talk about, when I bring this on the screen here, I want you to focus on something. This is essentially, with one addition, this is essentially what you look at when you get right out of the box the TriggerCharts Commander Series. What we did is, and the way that I like to look at this, is I added the aileron. The aileron is an add-on to this. You're just going to buy the aileron chart. It's the bottom part here, what you see here. And what this is a momentum and basically an indicator that provides us with a whole host of different technical analysis components that are oscillators, are trenders, are momentum, and we put them in together, we score it, and then we come out with where we are. Oftentimes we like to see that if there is a continuation in one direction or the other, that we have the opportunity to say that, okay, well, the trend, the momentum is positive. It's not really breaking down, and we can kind of rely a little more heavily on where the autopilot is, which is the coloration of the bias of the long or the short. Now, we're starting here, and I think it's really interesting. We're starting with Twitter. Twitter is now down about 14% pre-market right now on pretty disappointing numbers, right? Here's what's really cool. If you use the daily indicator, you were out yesterday. See the orange? See that orange right there? I'll kind of maybe zoom in. And we'll clear that. You were out of this trade yesterday. You got long at about 52. You're out about, well, let's see, 52.15. Few days, sideways action, nothing happening. Got out of 52.58. A little bit of nothing action over here as well. Even though the momentum was in its favor, the fact is that, you know what, this 30-minute. Yeah, you popped on the upside. Yep, there we go. False reading there. That was a 30-minute. Oh, my bad. Yeah, if you're trading short-term, you'd been out. Long-term, you'd be in. That's why we use multiple charts, right? Let's go back here. Put this on the setup. Let me just see how it shows. Here is setup. Setup is 30-minute daily. That's how we kind of look at things, right? So on a 30-minute at the end of the day, probably if you were trading, you probably don't want to be in there for earnings anyway. And this got you out on the 30-minute. There was a long call yesterday, kind of popped above to a 52-week high. Everything did look good for Twitter going into this, relatively good. Although, I mean, this choppiness in this last round right here in the last 2 weeks was a question. So, if you are trading, you're probably going to rely on your shorter term signals, especially into earnings. BLNK is interesting. One of the things I see at BLNK is a couple things that are good and a couple things that are bad. I like the concept of BLNK, what they do, which is charging stations for EVs. I don't like this momentum that we saw right here. It started to turn, and we're starting to see a little bit of a upturn. I'm really waiting for this to get above the zero line to make, to say, this is great. But right now, we started picking up a little position of this over time. It's really not playing in our direction right now. I do like this off of this support level, and you see how I could draw a line straight across. You could take your line tool, kind of click right there, and you see that we have multiple touches going across from there all the way across. Really good support at these levels. Down to about the $7.50. Obviously market headwinds are going to cause problems for this. I'd really like to see this daily turn up right here before we get something. We've got a really wide range here that can be anything that's happening. So we're in a consolidation right now. Held up over the last couple of days, couldn't get below, even though there was a short that was initiated here. There was a lot of, if you could look to the left, always look left. We talk about this all the time. Always looking left, right? You want to draw The concept, always looking left. And what do we find when we look left? Well, we bang right into something, right? So there is this support range right here that, you know what, it is holding up well against. So that's good, but yet again, waiting to see something before really getting fully committed to this. Fix. This is another kind of weird one that I want to pull up for you here, because Fix, this is something that where we have an opportunity, I think, because they install things like ventilation systems and possibly there's reverse ionization systems, HVAC systems for companies and for all that. And there's a lot of reason why you want to believe that a company like this or Train, JCI Controls maybe has an opportunity. But what I thought was really interesting is we had this kind of like this really good level of 41.86. I thought, you know what, let's start looking at this. This is a bias to the short side. We got this rotation down. We got an oversold situation on a momentum basis with aileron. But, you know, could this be something that all of a sudden rotates around because we have this range? Look at this. Let's draw a box. Let's make it really simple. Let's say our box tool. And where are we going to go here? Right about here. Right there. I can draw it out a little bit more. Kind of, that's your range. There's like nothing there. Enable studies. Let's take our radar. And you can see the radar, there's some gappiness, kind of went up, stayed up top there for a long time, came back down. So you have this range right here. Anything can happen in the gap. Is it going to try to gap fill? Possibly. I think there's an opportunity in this space in general. You know, this is something you just want to kind of keep on your radar. Intel, down to March lows. Nothing good here. Nothing good here. I don't know. I can't see anything good here. Let's just move on. Pinterest. Look at this. Look at all the green. Do you see all the sea of green on the bottom? That's important to look at. That sea of green is kind of interesting because you notice that let's kind of go back further. You know, really since, I'll say since June. This is about 19. This thing is trading at 68. Pinterest. Just incredible momentum on the upside. A couple little snafus here and there. But if you look at this, a lot of consolidation. Every time it got these tight consolidations, then broke higher. Is this going to continue? I don't know. I mean, you know what? The truth is that we're seeing that right now we're well above here. This is a scary area until we get a new altimeter formed. Always wait for that. You know, this is something that was called as a long yesterday. It will confirm as a bias yesterday. It will confirm out today. You know, who knows if we're going to see the retest of the 52 moving forward. NEO. Another one, sea of greens. That's what I love about the aileron. You get these really nice pictures. I like to look at colors. I like to see what's going on. The aileron kind of gives me that encapsulation of just, okay, if I just click the button, what am I seeing? I'm seeing green everywhere. I'm seeing positive momentum. I'm seeing some overdone areas. I'm seeing tight range, relatively tight ranges. I'm seeing the continuation of these springboards when I have a tight range, and then it kind of tightens, and the spring ravels up, and then boom, it pops in either direction. NEO at 31. I remember that when this thing was at like 5. Yeah, down here, right there, $4 back in May. So people look at this as the EV car of the of China. Now here's something I want to show you. This is, what do I see? Do I see a green here? What do I see? I see red. I see garbage. I see just nasty looking action here. And what stock is this? Gilead. This is the company that has remdesivir, or whatever you pronounce that. I can never pronounce that word. Which is the treatment for coronavirus. How could that be? The number one treatment kind of gets a nice boost, and then there's a realization that it's probably not going to make a lot of money on this deal. So what's happened is that the stock is hit now where, let's kind of go, let's do this. Let's really take this back. Let's go weekly. We are sub 2018 levels. I don't even know. We got to go back to 2014. This company's got the drug. But the government's probably going to start utilizing this and probably not paying their fair share for it, is what the problem is. Apple down about 4% today. Obviously been in this consolidation. You see that it start to roll over here. I mean, you do see possibly down to about probably 107 is a number that you want to look for. Back down here about 96 where it took off. 97 is possible if we break through here. If you break through the 107, you got a pretty quick move, probably about, you know, sub 100. 100 will be kind of that psychological point that people would want to hold. We got what else? Twitter here. I think I mentioned that earlier. All right. So with that, we see the futures are down 171 on the Dow, ES down 20, trying to snake up a little bit here. Just before the open, probably see that Pavlovian response. There we go. You have it right there. Let's see what it is. Yeah, kind of moving up. I want to thank everybody for joining me. The election is next week. Make sure to go over to TriggerCharts. We'll have this video and all the other videos available on our YouTube channel, as well as on TriggerCharts.com. Until next week, I appreciate you being there. Have a safe one and profitable.